this seems like a nonsensical question. But think again. If God came in Jesus, calls you to love your enemy, and it is all consistent with this need, he also respects it, then Jesus, first, must love Satan. I am sure that this way of thinking infuriates you so much. Of course you protest, saying that the good cannot certainly love the evil. This happens because you have a distorted idea of what love really is. Love is an absolutely union, which is to repair the damages that are induced by all possible divisions, and that between God and devil, that is, between absolute good and absolute evil, is the highest division possible, once that may suffer. Jesus saw judged a devil, who, observing his wonders, they attributed the work of the devil. Jesus said that if Satan's kingdom was divided against itself, so that a portion would promote the good and the other evil, then it would not hold. As every kingdom which is riven by internal contradictions, good and evil, personified by the devil and God, are two distinct divisions absolute, they cannot tear the whole. If this unit must stand together, so God is just from the ground to Satan, the kingdom of this world, and it exists for the love of God, which is the absolute value of each union, and creates in itself the first top division, then dissolve it with the greatest love that can exist. It is for the opponent. That opponent translates into a friend. If I want to put you in front of me in a position to embrace me, I can assume two positions, one that you see well, located in front of you, look at me, and the opposite of who is behind you and you do not see, but it pushes you. With my first action on you, I can show how good, attractive. With the other one can show an evil from which you flee. Between the two actions, that expressed by the bad is by far the most effective. Just because the prick of a needle, which Patty say behind you, jump in my arms for protection. Instead I now attract you much less power, if I practice on you real good. In fact, even the charm has been divided in what has, for the good, and one for evil. Good, for you know that the greatest possible good is sacrifice, and therefore takes on an aspect that is of a cross. Evil knows that this cross me off, and you are fascinated with everything that is not cross, but the light. In this way, also the two opposite actions, both are visible, both that are invisible, present themselves to you in the opposite manner to each other, and it becomes extremely difficult to be attracted, the idea of a sacrifice, or pushed forward, by whom we offer you that good. These two camps, divided in turn into two other fields, are a sign of God's total, which divides the first, and then unite with the supreme love. Everything that has been divided, God is understandable as the whole which, to be infinite, it must first be divided infinitely. So then we can live as infinite love of all that has been divided. That this absolute truth of union came into the world and is embodied in the person of me that now I'm telling you. My truth unlimited. The same Son Jesus, who as you asked us to love our enemies, has asked you to hate evil, and was made head of the army well, arrayed against the evil. God had to compromise with your truth, which is relative, so that the good is not evil, but its exact opposite, so that, for the principle of non-contradiction, as a guarantee of your relative truth, a truth not can consider the real truth the exact opposite. In a drawing on this is the truth. She too is relative, and cannot accept as true the opposite truth. Now if God had not proposed, again, a truth that was superior and that may be true, even for God and his enemies, what is required of you? You rest in relative truth, which does not accept to be contradicted, and you rest strongly against. Hence all the fights are conducted in good faith. Even among the various religions, the God of love, Jesus said, was to ascend to his Father, because it would have fallen to the world the truth that would make it all free, but free indeed, using the same truth for him, Son of that truth. And this truth, which is embedded in the Holy Spirit Paraclete, is that which expresses itself through me, to avoid that it was contaminated, the character, to tell me that my character was created exactly the same as yours. It has obvious charms or virtues, or monstrosity that can render velo repellent. He presents himself as one who is wrong, and therefore should not be viewed as a person, but in truth she is saying. In fact, the first danger to the truth is to be believed only because of great faith in the person that you said it struck me as a person. Therefore, to reset it completely, both good and evil are evident in it. Here is the truth of the Holy Spirit paralytic. God also loves his enemy. It happens because everything comes from God is what is judged good, both because it is misjudged. Evil only suffers a wrong judgment. It is a negative body placed in a field that is already negative of her, considering that not. In a field that is no, it's a no-no, and therefore it is. The two general fields, the positive and negative, acting as they are always a plus is expressed by multiplying the plus plus, and multiplying the minus sign with a minus sign. The algebra informs us that, instead, multiplying positive to negative always gets a negative sign. Just so the world, right before your eyes, divided into positive and negative, in itself is negative, similarly to what is behind you. Action and reaction, opposite each other, interacting, will show a true negative, and therefore must be denied. It seems true, and instead it is a negation of itself. Thus, when God gave to Adam and Eve a chance to deny it to themselves, they, denying the negation, got the opportunity to affirm the importance of their absolute I, which is a small institution when I, total of God, is divided between infinite ways to be a different to me. Original sin, in the drawing on which the light has been expressed by the relative faith, is a definite limit, to be overcome. But, in light of the total truth of the Father of life, that original sin was a necessity, and the evil one, who suggested the rebellion to God, understood as evil personified, but only within its design, it has been assumed as a negative value from God himself, the absolute sign of the love of God. Against his slightest I was to have dressed as the devil. God has agreed to be judged the same as the personification of evil. Only a true father works in this way, with a son who loves when he denies things that the judges a child's good. Our good father accepts this calmly, to be misjudged by a son, and, because of the love of the child, so does God the Father. He personifies the absolute value of evil, and distinguishes it from the well-intended as himself, to avoid creating creating confusion in those who are unable to understand the true love that exists between all the apparent enemies. Certainly, in a single work and on good and bad play to war, expressed by the characters of that work, but only enough to get out of that objective representation, to realize that the real actors of that representation are not at war with each other. They, both good guys, bad guys, and both contribute to the success of this exciting race between what is acceptable and what is unwelcome to every spectator. They're supportive and convinced that the main characters and extras are all essential to the success of the work. This is the truth superior to any work that will reveal the truth in me today. Everything has been divided, but all the parts, uniforms, they'll love each other, attract and repel at the same time, just like any love that exists among men. The truth in me, as I said, Jesus Christ has taken from him. He took that revealed the need of having to love all the enemies, and I will again. The same applies now to God the Father. The good must love that which is expressed in suffering. Evil, because evil is just an absolute failure for who should want to give all of himself, that it be past. All human values, which were erected in the opinion of values and institutions, seem to be equal and opposite. Who are fighting, while fighting attract, love, to compensate, in all ways. Among them, anyone who has value, give it to him who has none. God himself, who is absolute goodness, has to unify his kingdom, now divided between good and evil, only creating opposing fields, dominated by conflicting values. In this way, the being exists, and not being does not exist. Revenues split everything right in and outputs, of all things, just so you can perfectly balance the real focus of the truly useful. It has been awarded and split for good in the two opposing camps, then it entered, and as his output. Just so did God the Father. He divided his life into two opposing camps, and in one has placed all the evil possible, up to a death, a real goal of this vision. Well, this created great fear. Beyond death here is the other field. What is more tenuous but infinite? It is eternal, and that is where you receive justice for all the harm suffered and hours that God the Father wanted to give the man deserves to get him. Indefinitely, to give you exactly what, 100-fold here below, of which Jesus Christ spoke to you.